Ever faced someone who twists your words until you question your own memory, who smiles while cutting into your confidence, who plays the victim while painting you as the villain? That is the face of manipulation. And here is the truth. You cannot win by fighting on their stage, because their stage was built to trap you. But you can win by stepping off it entirely. The moment you refuse to be baited, the moment you stop giving them the reaction they crave, the game collapses. Their power was never real. It only lived in your response, so protect your peace. Hold steady in your silence. Remember that strength is not in proving them wrong, but in proving to yourself that you no longer need their chaos to define you. That is the smartest victory of all. If this message spoke to you, take a moment to subscribe so you never miss the tools that keep your mind untouchable. Share this with someone who needs the reminder today. And before you go, drop a comment with 3 words: outsmart with peace. Carry this strength with you, because every ending is also a beginning. The next lesson awaits, and it will take you even deeper into the art of unshakable calm. 1. See the pattern. Have you ever felt as if you were caught in a storm of emotions, where every word and gesture seemed designed to confuse you, and yet somehow it all felt strangely familiar? That is because a narcissist's chaos is not chaos at all, it is choreography. Their behavior, which feels spontaneous in the moment, follows a script they have been rehearsing for years. Once you see the pattern, the illusion begins to dissolve. You stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and begin to see it for what it truly is, a performance, repeated again and again for different audiences. The Stoics remind us that clarity is the foundation of freedom. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If someone can prove me wrong, I will gladly change. But if they act without reason, I will not be moved." That is the essence of outsmarting a narcissist. Their stage may be filled with theatrics, but once you recognize the script, you refuse to be cast in the role they assign. It begins with the charm, what people call love bombing, showers of praise, endless attention, and gifts that feel overwhelming. To the unprepared, it looks like devotion, but a Stoic eye sees it for what it is: bait, designed to build dependency. Imagine someone swept off their feet by constant flattery, only to later discover that kindness turned cold. The one who saw clearly from the start still stands steady, knowing their worth was never borrowed from another's words. Then comes the shift. Sarcasm, where there was once praise, subtle jabs at your worth, criticism that slowly erodes your confidence. This is not cruelty for its own sake, it is strategy. By lowering your sense of self, they tighten their grip on you. The Stoic answer is to anchor in your true value, which does not rise and fall with another's opinion. Perhaps the sharpest weapon they wield is gaslighting, denying what they said, twisting facts, making you doubt your own memory. Here, the antidote is clarity. Write things down, note your emotions, keep hold of truth not to prove them wrong, but to keep yourself anchored. A colleague may try to steal credit for your idea, but instead of reacting in anger, you calmly say, "Yes, when I presented this last week, I thought it could work exactly as you described." Without fury, without theater, you reclaim what is yours. And when words no longer serve them, they may retreat into silence, cutting communication so that you chase after answers. To them, silence is a weapon of control. To the Stoic, silence is mastery. You do not break your peace to seek their approval. You let their silence echo back upon them, exposing their emptiness. In the end, the cycle is clear. Charm, devalue, discard, return. It spins endlessly until you see it for what it is. And once you see it, you break it. You no longer personalize their tactics because you know their actions are not a reflection of your worth, but of their wounds. Awareness itself becomes your shield. And from that shield, we move into the next discipline, the art of detachment, where your emotions cease to be their playground. 2. Emotional detachment. Have you ever noticed how quickly a narcissist can turn your emotions into their playground? One moment you feel calm, and the next you're defending yourself against accusations that make no sense, drawn into arguments you never wanted to have. If their greatest weapon is emotional chaos, then your strongest shield must be emotional detachment. And here's the truth many miss. Detachment is not coldness. It is clarity. It is not the shutting down of the heart, but the discipline of deciding where your emotions are invested and where they are not. Epictetus captured it perfectly when he said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Narcissists thrive on reaction, because every outburst, every desperate explanation, every defensive speech is fuel for them. The moment you detach, the balance of power shifts. Think of it like a chess match. They make a dramatic move, expecting you to counter in panic. Instead, you sit still, calm, evaluating the board. That silence, that refusal to dance to their rhythm, terrifies them more than anger ever could. Detachment is not indifference, though many mistake it for that. You still feel, you still care, but you are no longer handing over your peace in exchange for their approval. You become selective with your energy, refusing to let someone else's bad day infect your spirit, or their disrespect define your worth. This is the kind of psychological boundary no manipulator can easily penetrate. Picture a scenario. An ex-partner, known for manipulation, suddenly sends you a sharp message. "I can't believe you're still bitter. Move on already." In the past, such words might have ignited a storm inside you, leading to long emotional explanations or defensive outbursts. But now, grounded in detachment, your reply is either no reply at all or something short and calm. "I wish you well. Nothing more, nothing less." They were prepared for battle, rehearsing your reactions in their mind, but instead they find themselves staring at a locked gate. That silence, that calm finality, is louder than any angry retort. It unsettles them because it means their grip has loosened. Seneca warned us, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." Narcissists exploit that imagination. They plant seeds of doubt, replaying your fears against you. Emotional detachment closes that door. It teaches you to pause before reacting, to breathe before answering, to shift from "they insulted me" to "they are trying to provoke me." It is a mental buffer that keeps your soul untouched by their storms. The Stoics trained themselves daily in this discipline, rehearsing worst-case scenarios not to scare themselves, but to grow stronger than fear. They reminded themselves that no insult, no slight, no manipulation can touch the inner fortress unless you open the gates. The psychological impact of detachment is devastating to the narcissist. They are accustomed to trading manipulation for reaction. Without your emotional currency, their economy collapses. And the thing they fear most is not your rage, but your indifference. Because indifference says, "You no longer have the power to shape my inner world." That truth shakes the very foundation of their identity. So understand this. Awareness of their playbook gives you knowledge, but detachment turns that knowledge into armor. Without it, you will still find yourself drawn into battles you never needed to fight. With it, you become untouchable, not because you are colder, but because you are wiser. Detachment is not a wall that keeps life out. It is the removal of hooks that kept pulling you in. And when those hooks are gone, you begin to move through life with a quiet confidence, the kind that no narcissist can shatter. And it is from that stillness that we take the next step forward to see how boundaries can transform the way we hold our ground. 3. Hold the frame. Have you ever walked away from a conversation with a sinking feeling, wondering how it somehow turned into your fault? You entered with clarity, but you left questioning yourself. That is not coincidence. That is framing. A narcissist's most dangerous weapon is not just manipulation, but the ability to shape the entire context of an interaction so that without realizing it, you are playing their game on their terms. The frame is the invisible stage on which meaning is decided. Whoever controls the frame controls the story. If they can push you into defending yourself, then you are already inside the guilty until proven innocent frame. If they can make you explain why you deserve respect, you are already caught inside the "you need my approval" frame. Epictetus warned, "If you wish to be in control of your own soul, do not hand the keys to anyone else." That is exactly what the Stoics understood. Never let another dictate the rules of your inner world. Narcissists are experts at this. Sometimes they place you in the victim frame, where they hurt you, yet somehow shift the conversation until you're apologizing for reacting. At other times, they use the authority frame, speaking as if they know more, see more, or stand on higher moral ground, pushing you into the student seat. Then there is the chaos frame, where they unleash rapid accusations, emotional bombs, and half-truths all at once, so that you are too busy defending yourself to ever pause and question them. If you do not recognize the frame, you will find yourself answering questions that should never have been asked in the first place. The Stoic way to handle this is simple but requires courage. First, you must notice the frame. In the middle of a heated moment, pause and ask, whose rules am I following right now? If the rules are theirs, you already know the outcome. Second, you must refuse to accept loaded premises. If someone asks, "Why are you always so sensitive?" do not rush to defend your sensitivity. Instead, step outside the trap. "I don't accept that as true." Third, when they expect either submission or aggression, you respond with calm authority. Imagine someone sneering, "You're overreacting." A reactive answer gives them ground, but a stoic response might sound like, "I am responding in a way that aligns with my values." Lastly, whenever possible, set the agenda before they do. Begin a meeting, a conversation, even an argument, by stating your intention clearly. That way, the frame is yours before they can hijack it. Picture this in action. You're in a team meeting, and a covertly narcissistic coworker undermines you with a sly remark. "I guess John's method works if you don't mind cutting corners." Most people would panic, rushing to explain every detail to prove they didn't cut corners. But instead, you calmly reply, "I stand by my process, and I'm open to hearing constructive feedback as long as it's specific." In that moment, the frame shifts. The burden is no longer on you to defend vague accusations. It is on them to provide evidence. Their tactic collapses because the frame is no longer theirs to control. This is why controlling the frame is so devastating to a manipulator. They thrive when they dictate the territory of the conversation. When you refuse their script, you force them into uncharted ground. Truth, clarity, accountability. It's like refusing to play a chess master on their board with their pieces. Instead, you set up your own board, one built on calm reasoning and firm values. Suddenly, their rehearsed strategies fall apart. Seneca once said, "We are more often frightened than hurt, and we suffer more from imagination than from reality." When you control the frame, you strip away imagined threats and replace them with grounded reality. The game they wanted to play vanishes, and in its place stands something they cannot compete with: your clarity. And it is with that clarity that we move into the next discipline, the one that makes your boundaries unshakable. 4. Strategic silence. Have you ever sat in a conversation where words were thrown like daggers, and yet you realized the sharpest response was not to answer at all? Most people underestimate silence. They think it signals weakness, ignorance, or defeat. But in truth, when guided by emotional intelligence, silence becomes one of the most powerful weapons you can wield. Especially when dealing with a narcissist, silence does what anger, explanation, or tears never could. It starves them of the reaction they crave. They thrive on pulling you into arguments, forcing you to defend, drawing out your pain like fuel for their ego. But silence says something different. It says, "You get nothing from me." It forces them to sit with themselves, and for someone who fears their own emptiness, that is torture. There is a reason interrogators use silence as a tactic. Human beings are deeply uncomfortable with long pauses. In the quiet, people rush to fill the void, often revealing more than they meant to. For a narcissist, that silence is unbearable. It disrupts their performance. They begin to wonder if you see through them, if they have lost control, if their grip has slipped. And in that uncertainty, the balance of power shifts. Stoic wisdom echoes here. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Silence is a way of keeping that power. It is not avoidance. It is mastery. Imagine you are at a family dinner, and a relative known for their sharp tongue looks at you with a smirk and says, "Still single? Guess you're just too picky." The natural instinct is to defend yourself, to explain, to justify. But explanation opens the door for more jabs. Instead, you look at them calmly, maybe raise an eyebrow, and say nothing. The silence that follows is heavy, and everyone at the table feels it. Yet this time, the discomfort is not yours. It belongs entirely to the one who spoke. In that moment, without a word, you turned their disrespect back on them. Seneca once said, "I have learned to be indifferent to the things that make the noise of the world." This is the essence of strategic silence. It is not about running away from conflict, but about refusing to validate manipulation. Silence is active, not passive. It is the choice to remain present and unshaken, to refuse the bait while maintaining full control of yourself. And if you want to amplify its effect, pair it with steady body language. Sit upright, move slowly, hold calm eye contact if the space feels safe. Your posture should speak what your mouth does not. I am in control. The beauty of silence is that it often lingers longer in memory than any argument ever could. People will forget the details of heated words, but they will remember the weight of your calm. For the narcissist, silence is devastating because it cuts them off from the attention they are addicted to. Without that supply, their game collapses. And for you, silence is liberation because it proves that you do not need to raise your voice to hold your ground. So let silence become part of your practice. Use it not to retreat, but to stand firm. Every time you choose silence over reaction, you reclaim your peace. And if you feel the power of this lesson today, subscribe for more wisdom that strengthens your inner calm, and write one word in the comments: silence. Carry it with you, because in the next step, we will uncover how boundaries can transform your quiet strength into unshakable freedom. 5. Indirect exposure. Have you ever tried to call someone out for who they truly are, only to find yourself trapped in a whirlwind of denial, twisted words, and blame turned back onto you? This is what happens when you confront a narcissist directly. They are masters of defense and image management, and the harder you push, the stronger their mask becomes. But there is another way. Sometimes the most powerful method is not to tell the world what they are, but to step back and let them reveal it themselves. When you stop interfering, when you stop shielding them, they eventually expose their own character for everyone to see. And this exposure, quiet and undeniable, is far more devastating than any accusation you could voice. Why does this work? Narcissists live for appearances. They carefully craft how others see them, like actors desperate for applause. If you confront them directly, you awaken their defense system, and they will lie, gaslight, and twist narratives to protect their facade. But when you remain calm and neutral, their craving for attention betrays them. Just like a poker player who grows overconfident and reveals his hand by playing too aggressively, the narcissist, left unchecked, shows their true nature. They cannot sustain the performance forever. They slip, and when they do, it is not your word against theirs. It is reality revealing them. Imagine this at work. You have a colleague who constantly belittles you in private, but charms the room in meetings. If you warn others, you risk sounding bitter or envious. So instead, you step back. You keep notes, stay calm, and let them talk. Over time, their arrogance leaks through in small but undeniable ways, interrupting others, claiming credit for ideas, dismissing people in front of those who matter. Eventually, others begin to see what you already knew, without you lifting a finger to convince them. The mask they wore so tightly begins to crack, not because you tore it off, but because they could no longer hold it in place. Epictetus once said, "Seek not the good in external things, seek it in yourselves." The Stoic approach here is not about revenge, it is about truth. You don't need to force justice, because truth has its own way of surfacing. By stepping back, you stop protecting the very disguise that enabled their manipulation. You let the natural consequences of their arrogance unfold. This is not dramatic or vengeful. It is steady, patient, and aligned with inner peace. Of course, this requires boundaries, no emotional leaks, because anger only gives them ammunition to paint you as unstable. No gossip, because rumors weaken your credibility. No saving face for them, because every time you excuse their rudeness, you become part of their disguise. Instead, when someone else notices their behavior, let the observation stand. Do not soften it. Do not cover it. Reality does the work for you, and there is a beauty to this process. The moment you stop being their shield, they must project their behavior onto others. And eventually, they will target the wrong person, a boss, a respected friend, a family member unwilling to tolerate it. When that happens, you do not need to say, "I told you so." The truth will already be clear. You may even enhance the process subtly, not by accusations, but by planting seeds with calm questions. Interesting. Do they treat everyone like that? Did you notice how quickly they changed their story? These questions allow others to connect the dots on their own. Seneca reminded us, you don't need to shout the truth into the world. You only need to stop hiding it. Indirect exposure is precisely that. It is the quiet unveiling of reality, without your rage clouding the moment, without your words being twisted against you. It is patient, precise, and deeply powerful. Because once the mask slips in front of the right eyes, it can never be put back on again. And with that, we begin to see that exposing them is only half the work. The next step is protecting yourself through unshakable boundaries that make their tactics useless. 6. Boundaries with silence. Have you ever noticed how easily small compromises add up until suddenly you realize your life no longer feels like your own? With a narcissist, this erosion begins quietly. They send a late-night message and expect a reply. They demand you cancel your plans to meet their needs. They provoke you, and the moment you defend yourself, they win. Their greatest weapon is not always words, but the way they test and push past your boundaries without you even realizing it. That is why, if you want to outsmart them, your boundaries must be clear, firm, and unshakable. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." A Stoic boundary does not try to change who they are, because you cannot. It protects who you are by deciding how much of yourself you allow them to access. Think of a relative who drops by unannounced, disrupting your day, as if your time belonged to them. A weak response might sound like, "Oh, you caught me at a bad time, but I guess you can stay for a while." In that moment, they win. A strong response, calm and without apology, would be, "I can't have visitors without notice. Let's plan for another day." No anger, no guilt, just clarity. Boundaries are not about shutting people out. They are about keeping yourself intact. And narcissists will test them relentlessly, using guilt trips, false urgency, charm, or even silence to see if you bend. The moment you hold steady, you show them that your life is not theirs to orchestrate. But boundaries alone are not enough. They must be paired with silence. Silence to many feels unnatural, even weak. But to the Stoic, it is precision. Epictetus reminded us, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." Silence is not absence. It is the presence of self-control. It is the refusal to hand over your emotions for them to twist. When you go silent in the face of provocation, you starve them of the oxygen they crave, your reaction. Imagine an argument where they sneer, "Oh, so you think you're better than everyone else now?" The old response would be to defend, to explain, to argue. The Stoic response is stillness, a neutral gaze, no words. The pause grows heavy, and suddenly it is their own attack that hangs awkwardly in the air. This silence is not the same as the narcissist's silent treatment, which they use to punish or manipulate. Your silence is not about cruelty, it is about protection. You are not withholding love to inflict pain, you are refusing to fuel their fire. Picture them as a fisherman casting bait made of guilt, provocation, and false charm. Every time you bite, you are pulled into their boat. But when you stand calmly on the shore and let the bait drift past, you remain untouchable. Over time, they realize there is nothing left to hook. Boundaries and silence together form a fortress. Not built with anger, but with respect for your time, your peace, your worth. Seneca wrote, "A person's worth is measured by the worth of what they value. When you value your energy, you attract those who honor it and repel those who don't. And in that quiet strength, the narcissist loses the only power they ever had, the ability to move you like a piece on their board." From here, we can begin to see how detachment and discipline turn into true freedom. 7. Own the frame. Have you ever walked into a conversation feeling calm and certain of your truth, yet left it feeling guilty, confused, or doubting your own memory? That is the hidden power of a narcissist's frame. The frame is the invisible set of assumptions, rules, and tone that shape every interaction. Whoever controls it controls the outcome. Narcissists are masters at this. They know how to shift the battlefield so that you're suddenly defending your tone instead of their betrayal, explaining your sensitivity instead of confronting their dishonesty, or even feeling selfish for daring to set a boundary. By the time you notice, you are already fighting on their ground. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This is the essence of frame control. It is the decision to stop allowing someone else to dictate the mental and emotional ground you stand on. When you hold the frame, you hold sovereignty over your own reality. Narcissists often use guilt to twist the conversation. "I guess I'm just a terrible person then," they sigh, pulling you into defending their feelings instead of addressing their behavior. Or they take the role of the victim, saying, "You're attacking me for no reason," forcing you to explain yourself while the real issue slips away. Sometimes they claim moral superiority. "I would never treat you this way," so that you feel compelled to prove your worth. These traps are all designed to drag you into their frame. The Stoic path offers another way. Before engaging, you name the issue clearly to yourself. This is about honesty, not about my tone. When the narcissist tries to derail, you calmly redirect. If they say, "You're too sensitive," you respond, "This is not about sensitivity, it's about truth." No lengthy defense, no frantic explanation. You stand where you choose to stand. Imagine a conversation where they say, "You're blowing this out of proportion." The weak response is, "No, I'm not. You just don't understand." You've entered their frame. The strong response is simple. The issue is not the scale. The issue is your behavior. Now the frame is yours, and it remains there. This discipline is not only about words, but also about tone. Narcissists try to inflame because anger and agitation weaken clarity. The Stoic approach is almost unnervingly calm, slow words, steady pauses, grounded body language. Your composure communicates that you will not play by their emotional rules. Combined with boundaries, frame control becomes unshakable. You might say, "I'm not discussing my tone, I'm discussing the facts." If you can't address that, the conversation ends here. Each time you hold the frame, their usual weapons, confusion and chaos, fail. Seneca once wrote, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." Frame control is how you pull yourself out of the imagined guilt and fear they impose, back into the grounded reality you choose. Picture yourself as the architect of the room you're standing in. The narcissist tries to move the furniture, dim the lights, and lock the doors, but you calmly restore it to your design. They can walk around all they want, but they remain inside your blueprint. The bottom line is clear. Narcissists win only when you step into their frame. Stoics win by refusing to enter it at all. And that refusal, quiet and steady, becomes the beginning of true freedom. 8. Prediction as a shield. To truly outsmart a narcissist, you cannot live in reaction. You must learn to anticipate. Like a chess master who sees 3 or 4 moves ahead, you begin to notice that narcissists are not as unpredictable as they seem. They run on scripts they have rehearsed their entire lives. Charm to pull you in, devaluation to weaken you, silence to punish, and sudden sweetness to lure you back. Once you recognize these patterns, their surprises lose power. Epictetus reminded us, "Events do not disturb people. It is their judgment concerning them." When you know what is coming, their tactics no longer shake your peace. Think of how often they switch to playing the victim the moment they are caught, or how quickly they start whispering to others in order to damage your name before you expose them. Anticipation means you prepare before the blow lands. History repeats itself. Each time you foresee it, the strike loses its sting. Imagine confronting them about a lie. The sequence is almost mechanical. Denial, projection, playing the victim, then seeking allies. If you already know the script, you can gather proof, alert trusted friends, and steady yourself before the storm. The game they thought would destabilize you becomes predictable theater. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The art of living is more like wrestling than dancing. Wrestling demands foresight, the strength to anticipate and redirect. So it is here. When you predict, their chaos turns into a formula you have already solved. The magician's trick no longer dazzles once the secret is known. Some narcissists will grow reckless, others will retreat in search of easier prey. Either way, you remain untouched, steady, and free." 9. The Stoic walk away. There comes a moment in every battle with a narcissist when the smartest move is not to fight harder, but to walk away, not in weakness, not in surrender, but in absolute control. The perfect walk away is not about escaping them, it is about choosing yourself. In that instant, the predator loses their prey, the puppet master drops the strings, and the entire game collapses. Timing, however, is everything. Leave too early, and it may seem as if they pushed you out. Wait too long, and your energy and confidence erode. But to leave at the precise moment they believe you are trapped is devastating, because they are counting on your attachment, your need to explain, your fear of being misunderstood. When you step away without warning, the rhythm they depend on shatters. A narcissist without someone to control is like a puppeteer holding strings with no puppet. Their show collapses instantly. They cannot twist your words, they cannot manipulate your reactions, they cannot feed on your attention. Even your anger once sustained them. Silence starves them. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." The walk away must not be in rage, but in mastery, so they cannot bait you back. Consider Sarah, who endured years under a narcissistic boss. She knew his pattern of humiliation and control, so she prepared. The day she secured another job, she handed in her resignation calmly, packed her things, and left without a scene. He was stunned, not because she quit, but because she denied him the explosion he craved. That calm exit left a deeper mark than any confrontation ever would. Walking away is not instinct, but discipline. It means recognizing the bait and refusing it, knowing your worth is greater than their approval, valuing peace over chaos. When you close the door, the noise may remain inside, but beyond it lies the quiet space where your life expands again. The greatest victory is not proving them wrong, but proving to yourself that you no longer need their chaos to define your peace. Walking away at the right moment is not escape, it is mastery. You rise by choosing clarity over confusion, calm over conflict, and yourself over their game. If this message resonated, take a moment to subscribe and carry this strength with you. Share it forward and drop a comment with 3 words. Choose your peace. The journey continues, and the next lesson awaits.